Megan Hicks of I Run Far. I'm with Tom Evans. It's a couple days before the 2024 UTMB. We find ourselves here again in Chamonix. Hi, Tom.
Megan, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, you've chosen a wonderful spot and you've brought the nice sunshine with you as well.
Well, you are the local here, so I feel like you're the one who's more controlling the weather.
Oui, c'est vrai. Il fait chaud aujourd'hui.
Okay, so you were here at the starting line last year. You've been here at the starting line in the past, but I think it's like maybe a different Tom Evans here this year.
I think it's I raced here for the first time for the first UTMB in 2022 and had
an amazing race.
Yeah, what can only be when something. It's very rare that things don't go wrong in races. And yes, there were some things that didn't go perfectly, but there was no moment where I thought, I'm having a really low moment. And I definitely didn't find the race easy, but I didn't really struggle at points. I ran as well as I could have done, and I couldn't have been happier. So I then came here in 2023, kind of expecting to have the same thing. So,
a fun little march through the mountains.
Yeah, by that point I'd done Western States twice and had 2 good results. I'd done UTMB once and had a good result. So I just thought, 100 miles, this is easy. And
I figured out 100-mile running.
Yeah, exactly. When people are having bad days, I'm like, how is... So...
you just haven't cracked the nut yet.
Yeah, exactly. I was definitely brought down to earth and realized what a 100-mile race in the mountains can do, because it will chew you up and spit you out. And so a very, very different mentality and very different training, both in terms of everything from locations to the speed work to the sessions that I've been doing. Everything this year has been different, and I guess in a way looks similar to my Western States build up, but very different at the same time. Very similar structure, very similar sort of hours, but yeah, fundamentally different, because when we talk about training, we talk about you train for the demands of the race. So you and everyone can do this. So you can work out, okay, in order to do this race, what have I actually got to be able to do? And then you work backwards from that. Okay, well, what do my training sessions look like in order to take me one step closer to what I need to do in this race? So yeah, this year has been, what are the demands of the race? Okay, cool, I know that. I've run CCC twice, UTMB nearly a half times. And yeah, I feel like I know what I need to do in order to put myself in a position to have a really good day. But again, it's 100-mile racing, and you try and control what you can control, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, definitely different physically and different mentally coming into this year.
Last summer, you tried to connect the dots of the Great Western States UTMB Double, which is this is a tricky race, that's a tricky race, and then getting them both right in one summer is, I don't know, one of the hardest things in the sport right now. This year, you're taking from the outside looking in anyways, a much more traditional 100-mile build. You did start off with like a fairly non-traditional winter when it comes to long distance running. You started with a cross-country season, which is really cool.
I did. In the UK, and I think in Europe especially, cross-country is the fundamentals of running. It's where I started running. It's where everyone in their local running clubs, it's what you do in winter. And in a way it's like trail running, because splits don't really matter. It's not, I think the cross-country racing in the US is really cool, but it's also really fast because a lot of it's on golf courses. It's not muddy, it's typically not hilly. Whereas I'm doing my county championship, like my state championships, was around 4 farmers' fields. And if you can say 4 farmers' fields quickly,
we'll try, but well. I'm proud of you for that.
And in places you're knee high in mud. So if you feel like you're running 3 minutes a kilometer or 5:30 a mile, and actually in reality you're running 7 minutes a mile, and it doesn't matter because it's the effort.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's similar to running in the mountains.
Yeah.
understanding, yes, it's a short race, it's 10 kilometers, so it's just over 30 minutes, but it's, yeah, I guess all of those, you don't worry about those metrics. You kind of just run on feel, and it's a race. It doesn't matter who's at the first corner first.
Right.
Same as here. It doesn't matter who gets to Les Houches first. It doesn't matter who gets to Vallecine first. The winner is the person who gets back to Chamonix first. And I think that's, yeah, it's very similar to cross country. So I also got to race. I've raced 13 times this year. Oh. That's probably the most out of anyone.
Yeah.
And yes, a lot of them were shorter,
like
10 kilometers, 8 kilometers.
10 of them cross country? Or?
Yeah, I've done 3 trail races this year.
Well.
So it's been a really cool way. I've been able to practice race week. I've been able to practice other things that you don't want to make those mistakes in the day. So yeah, I transitioned from cross country, sort of culminating in racing the cross country world championships. And
you guys did really good there.
Yeah, we did really good. I had a bit of a niggle going into it, but managed to sort of dealt with it and still managed to finish in the top third, which was great. And I was super happy, and a really nice sort of well-earned, that was the goal for the beginning part of the year. And I then transitioned from there and had 5 weeks till Transvolcania. Okay. So I recovered and did some training and was really happy with my race in Transvolcania, finishing joint second. Yeah. I was really worried. I'd not been on training camp. I'd not done any climbing. I'd not done any long descents, but actually the cross-country speed and conditioning, I guess, had played huge dividends, and actually then found it really very straightforward to get back into doing long runs.
That's interesting.
It was really interesting. And then
I guess it's because you've opened up your high end so far that the middle and the lower end just
relatively easy.
And that's interesting.
Which is really interesting. So I guess we've sort of tried to carry that across, and even now still keeping a little bit of that in. And I then raced in, I was supposed to race at Zugspitz, but I didn't because of this little niggle that was hanging around, and finally got that sorted to race Lavaredo.
Got it.
But again, because I was been dealing with this, I hadn't been on training camp. I'd been training at home and lots of time on the treadmill, so just trying to get things dialed in. And again, really happy with the performance at Lavaredo, and just over 12 hours behind the king of Lavaredo, Hannes. And you can't, at that race, if anyone's going to beat you, it's
okay to be beaten.
It's okay to be beaten. You're the next best person on that course. And so I was really happy with that. And then I've gone straight from Lavaredo. I think I've only been home for 6 nights since Lavaredo, and spent a couple of weeks in Chamonix and almost 2 months in Tignes. And it's been the last 12 weeks has been incredibly traditional, ultra running, 100 miles, goal being running around Mont Blanc.
Last year, when we interviewed you before the race, you talked a lot about, like, you felt like one of your weaknesses was preparing to run through the night. And I think, like, that's sort of where you had challenges ultimately. Have you, looking back now that you have the hindsight of, like, one really great experience at UTMB, a less great one, and also, like, your CCC experiences, what sort of hindsight vision are you bringing forward with you to Friday, Saturday?
I think at night, I guess that's kind of been ticked off. It's the reason I raced Lavaredo.
Yeah, okay.
You get the perfect...
It's a night race,
It's a night race. Yeah. You get to run... It was a 12-hour race. I started at 11 p.m.
You were destined to do that one. Like, your body just decided that for you.
Precise. And at the race that I pulled out of, it was also a night race.
Okay,
there was logic in picking a race that started at night, because I wanted a whole run through the night, because I'm typically not that comfortable running at night. So there is method. We work back. What are the demands of the race? Running at night.
I gotta figure out nighttime.
How do I figure that out? What's the best lamp for me to use? Is the best lamp for me the best lamp for everyone else? Maybe, maybe not. And so I think that's changed. And I think the big thing for me is patience. Okay. I've always liked rushing things, whether it's at school or racing. I like front running. I think nowadays I couldn't tell you the last time a man front run in any major race from the very, very beginning.
Who sticks it then?
Who sticks it?
Yeah.
And I think especially a race like here, the last time here would have been Pau Capel, and that was an incredible race. And I think you left everyone sort of fairly speechless. And I'm not saying that I don't think that can happen. I can't do that. That's not
Yeah.
that's not my style of racing. My style of racing is if I can control the first half, I'm then able to race the second half, rather than trying to race the second half, then I'm not able to control anything in the second half. Like I found out last year, and the pace was way too hot last year, and both Jim and Zach had really, really low moments. They managed to put
Get
it
through
together. They
them
managed to get through it
Yeah.
and ended up having incredible runs. But you compare from last year, like Germain's run compared to Jim and Zach's, and it's
Two different animals,
two
wasn't it?
two completely different styles of racing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, definitely the more conservative approach at the start, trying to be patient, and I think it's going to be a fairly challenging year this year because it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be crazy hot, but it's still going to be hot. It's like Western States when people say, "Oh, it's not a hot year." Yeah, it's still
90 something
it's still
degrees.
90.
Yeah.
Like it's still going to be hot, and it feels
Yeah.
way hotter here, and especially like the climb coming out of Courmayeur is it's really hot, it's really humid, it's really sticky, and I think that will be a major part of the race, and somewhere we've identified where it's have a few strategies for getting through that part. And yeah, I think just approaching it way more of a taking a step back and looking at everything from a 100-mile perspective rather than looking at it as this is just an extension from the Western States.
Well, you nailed it when you said a few minutes ago that the race is not won in Valorsine. Like the race is won at the finish line,
Yeah.
and like that's that like the patience thing
Yeah.
is the reward
Exactly,
if you can do that.
For sure, but
Yeah.
regardless whether it's winning a race, the race finishes here. Like it's not a
Right.
100K race. It's not a 100-mile race. It's a 107-mile race. You have to get here, and so yeah, one of my big goals this year is finishing,
To get here.
to race sensibly, and it's kind of if I really struggle and I end up hiking the last 15 hours, which I really hope I don't,
Yeah.
it's kind of my fault. And now you've got to live with the consequences. It's so easy to pull out of races, and the more you pull out of races, the easier it then becomes. And I so nearly pulled out at Lavaredo because I'd gone through the night. That was it was right. We think we've sorted out your night time. Let's go through it. So I said, when it got to daylight, I was like, oh, I just pull out.
Yeah.
It'll be easy.
Practice
It's
what I need to
Yeah,
practice.
exactly. I've practiced
Yeah.
what I need to practice, and now it's really easy. So yeah, the more you pull out, the easier it becomes. So I think for me, sticking in when it got really tough at Lavaredo, which it did, because I wasn't prepared. Yeah, this has now sort of been a really nice, sort of full circle moment that now I'm sort of, I feel incredibly calm and ready to give it a really good shot on Friday night.
Amazing. We look forward to seeing you do the full 100 miles or 109 miles
Yeah,
or whatever
something.
this is, and seeing you back in Chamonix.
And hopefully have a post-race interview.
There we go.
Thank you very much.